Jedi Academy turns 20 this year. That's right, remember spending ages trying to build the perfect lightsaber, sending enemies flying with force lightning, and of course realizing that Kyle was never going to open that door.
Go!
I wanted to go back and revisit this classic to see how it's aged in the past 2 decades, and if it's still as good as we remember. But first, let's set the scene. In 2002, LucasArts released Jedi Outcast, the third in the Jedi Knight series of games, which actually started off as the Dark Forces games. Anyway, Outcast would go on to become a classic game in its own right, but it still felt like it was having a bit of a hard time deciding if it was a shooter or a Jedi action-adventure game. After all, Kyle doesn't actually get a lightsaber until about 6 levels in. Now, Jedi Outcast's success meant that LucasArts approached Ravensoft to develop a sequel straight away. And this time around, the developers decided to place a lot more emphasis on the Jedi aspect of the gameplay. Jedi Academy is set 2 years after Outcast and about a decade after Return of the Jedi. And while the series protagonist Kyle Katarn is still a major part of the plot, the game places him in a supporting character role in favor of Jaden Core, a highly customizable Jedi apprentice. Just look at all these choices. Who wouldn't want to play as a nightmare-fueled Plo Koon character? But I think I'm going to be boring and go with this guy who looks like he should be playing bass in Nickelback. In addition to character appearance, you also get some nice saber customization. The story starts with Jaden and other new recruits en route to the Jedi Academy. Jaden is greeted by this annoying fella, Rosh.
Aren't you excited? We're going to be Jedi!
Look, he's already getting on his nerves. Also, mate, who cut your hair? Like all good Star Wars, it's not long before things get hairy and the transport is shot down. The gameplay is nearly identical to Outcast, but you get your lightsaber straight away this time. And just like Outcast, you can still cut down your allies. Jaden looks disappointed, but he's not really. And it's not long before we meet everyone's favorite Jedi. Oh, and Luke's there as well. It's nice to see that Kyle still has his trademark sass intact.
I sense a disturbance in the Force.
You always sense a disturbance in the Force.
We then get to the school assembly where Luke explains that there is a staff shortage. So Jaden and Mr. $5 Haircut over there will both be instructed by Kyle. We get a standard tutorial mission followed by another cutscene. And I'm glad this game's retained some of the awkwardness from Jedi Outcast. However, unlike Jedi Outcast, this game has a more open story structure. The game is split into 3 main sections. Each consists of 5 freeform missions that you can do in any order, and doing each of these missions gives you 1 point to spend on your force powers. Once you've done at least 4, you can go back to the Academy and play a mainline mission. Alright, let's start with Tatooine, and straight away this game isn't shy about throwing in beloved elements and characters from the movies. For example, before you know it, you and Chewbacca are gunning down a bunch of space pirates around the Millennium Falcon. As I mentioned, this game does place a big emphasis on Jedi powers and lightsabers, but it still keeps to its FPS roots by allowing you to use a variety of different blasters and grenades. I was also glad to see the Super Mario jump from Jedi Outcast still works at disarming enemies. Ah, saber to the groin, the signature move of any Jedi. This game is also filled with instances of Kyle strategically trying to avoid doing any work.
Oh, did I miss something?
Or how about this next mission where Kyle just leaves you to take on an entire Imperial battalion?
Sorry I never made it to Bakura.
What the hell is going on?
Be sure to wait for him before you do anything.
Now, a few missions in, Rosh starts to doubt his master.
Kyle doesn't seem to really foster my talents.
Sorry, Rosh, no time for foreshadowing. I've got to avoid getting eaten by this giant space worm. Now, to be honest, some of these missions are better than others, and some do feel like they're just there to pad out the game. At the end of every section, Luke will assess your force powers.
Kyle and I have sensed great anger in you, Jaden.
I knew I shouldn't have put everything on Force Lightning. Jaden is then sent to Hoth to investigate some suspicious Imperial activity, and this level is another instance of the developers embracing the movies. We're riding Tauntauns, navigating the remains of the battle from Empire Strikes Back, and and encountering Wampas. This level is a great callback, but did anyone else spend absolute ages trying to find the entrance to Echo Base? You then encounter this red Twi'lek lady who's up to something suspicious. She gets away and it's time for the second batch of open missions. We've got the Coruscant mission.
Did you think you could just barge in here and take me into custody, Jedi?
Yes. Okay, maybe not. Excuse me. Coming through. Then we've got this mission where you've got to place a bunch of beacons so Wedge can blow them up. Then there's the speeder chase.
Tell me everything you know about the Disciples of Ragnos. Please make it quick, though.
Well, I told you to make it quick. The most elaborate mission in this batch is the one where Jaden is captured and then hunted by this fella. And this one involves you having to make your way through this huge Imperial base. Finally, you catch up to this fella and zap the shit out of him.
I'm proud of how you handled yourself, Jaden. Well done.
Luke then sends Kyle and Jaden to investigate some suspicious activity at Vader's old castle. Now this is way before Mustafar, so instead his castle is located on a planet where it's always raining acid. And finally, Kyle does something.
Kyle and I have sensed great anger in you, Jaden.
Ah, look at the utter hypocrisy. He's blasting lightning left, right, and center. Hey, come back, damn stormtrooper, come back. Thanks, Kyle. I guess now is a good time to mention that Jedi Outcast's infamous realistic combat setting is still very much accessible in this game. Oh no, Kyle's out of action again. And so you make your way through the castle, past Vader's collapsed statue, and finally find Rosh, who, shocker, has turned to the dark side. You duel Rosh, but his two pesky assistants keep on reviving him. Excuse me, do you mind? Turns out this lady, Tavion, is behind all of it. Remember her from the last game? She was Barney the dinosaur's girlfriend. Well, she's back with this funky staff which she plans to use to resurrect the spirit of some ancient Sith Lord.
A Sith Lord?
The good guys just barely escape and report back to the academy. Luke, do you mind, standing normally for once? Do you have some kind of a rash down there or what? Meanwhile, Jaden is promoted to Jedi Knight and gets to build a new lightsaber. Plus, you can now choose from dual or a two-handed option. Who else remembers spending absolute ages trying to find the right color combination? In addition to all this, Jedi Academy continues to build on its predecessor's already stellar combat mechanics by letting you choose from 3 fighting styles. All of this culminates in what many consider to be the best lightsaber combat in any Star Wars game. Before we continue, just a quick note to say that I have started a Patreon. It's only £1 a month, so if you've enjoyed my content, please consider subscribing, as it would go a long way in helping me release videos consistently. Thank you for considering. Alright, let's test out these new lightsabers and force upgrades with the final batch of open missions. Whoops. Sorry about that. Now at this point your force powers really do reach superhero levels. The game sees you jumping hundreds of feet in the air and electrocuting groups of enemies at once. I also enjoyed that the level designs changed between each of these 3 sections, allowing you to make use of your growing arsenal of force powers. This last batch consists of over-the-top missions like the one with the rampaging Rancor, and this one where you have to scale the tower. Oh damn it, where's my lightsaber? Come on. Come back! In addition to including elements from the movies, the developers also made a few nods to the EU throughout the game, like the Nogri from the Thrawn books. To me, the most memorable mission from this 3rd batch is the one where you have to try and plant explosives around this empty facility. Seems pretty straightforward until Boba Fett turns up. So now you've got to plant them while trying to swat him away like a giant fly. Alright, with the final batch of missions done, we return to the main plot. Jaden and Kyle get a distress signal from Rosh, who's decided he doesn't really like the whole dark side thing anymore. They track him down to this mining facility filled with dark side disciples. You're no match for me, grunts. I'm a Jedi Knight with the power of the Force. Finally, you find Rosh, and this is where the game introduces another interesting twist. Jaden is presented with a choice: kill Rosh or spare him. The decision will result in a dark or light side ending. Let's do the dark side first. Jaden kills Rosh, and then takes on the red Twi'lek lady. Jaden then flies to the Tomb of Ragnos, where the stripper lady is looking to resurrect the ancient Sith Lord.
A Sith Lord.
Luke's Jedi and the Dark Jedi are in the midst of a big battle. Now, in this scenario, both factions will go after you. Jaden catches up to Tavion right before she awakens Ragnos. And you know he's definitely turned to the dark side because now he's using his Batman voice.
I will have the scepter and its power for myself!
Jaden defeats Tavion and then Kyle arrives. Okay, this will be a fun fight. Guess I'm gonna have to pull out the Super Mario jump for this. Eventually, Jaden takes the ancient scepter and uses it to kill Kyle. What a sad, tragic ending to see a beloved character. Oh, no, he's fine. In fact, he doesn't even have a scratch on him. And this version ends with Kyle and Luke deciding to track down Jaden, who is now also an Imperial officer for some reason. Now, in the canon light side ending, Jaden spares Rosh, only for the Red Lady to show up and cut off his arm anyway. Once again, you fight her, then go to the tombs, but this time the Jedi actually help you get through the ruins. But clearly they're not doing a very good bloody job, are they? Jaden confronts Tavion and this time speaks to her in his regular voice.
You're delusional.
This time she actually manages to awaken Ragnos, who's not really much of a boss, he just gives Tavion a bit of a boost. You defeat her again, and then Kyle and Luke turn up fashionably late as always. The game ends with the good guys all safe and in one piece. Well, apart from Rosh. And that's it for the campaign. But of course, I couldn't talk about this game without mentioning the multiplayer. Playing Jedi Academy in the mid-2000s was some of the most fun I've ever had playing online. Yes, it wasn't the most sophisticated multiplayer experience. It didn't have the best graphics, but it was just so much fun to come home after school and engage in an utter free-for-all lightsaber skirmish with your friends. I'm sure that many of you watching this video actually associate Jedi Academy more with the multiplayer than the campaign. And the good news is, the community have kept this game's multiplayer alive through different mods. The most popular one probably being Movie Battles 2, which allows you to play as every character ever across a bunch of custom modes. For example, here is me as Old Ben getting cut down by topless Kylo Ren. And so there we have it, Jedi Academy 20 years later. Which brings me back to the question, is it still good? Absolutely. To me, Jedi Academy has aged best out of the 4 Jedi Knight games. Yes, the graphics look dated and awkward, but in a funny, charming kind of way. What really holds up to me is the gameplay. The saber combat and variety of force powers is as fun and engaging as it's ever been. Some of the freeform levels can feel a bit tedious, but the overall game design more than makes up for it. And thanks to the strong community support, this game's multiplayer is very much alive and well, which I would recommend to both new and returning players. The game is still available on Steam and saw a re-release on modern consoles a few years back. Both Jedi Outcast and Jedi Academy are so similar that I kind of look at them as two halves of one game, but if I had to choose one, I would probably go with Jedi Academy as it feels a bit more tonally consistent. And I'd like to have my lightsaber straight away, thank you very much. But that's just my take. Please let me know your thoughts about Jedi Academy in the comments. How do you think it holds up 2 decades later? And do you prefer it to Jedi Outcast? As always, thanks for watching, please consider supporting me on Patreon, and a big thanks to all of my existing patrons. Also, if you've enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.